Retelling the tragic romantic through a modern perspective, local playwrights Puneet Singh and Andy Ghar-A has envisioned the conversation that might have taken place between the lovers on the day of the tragedy.
It's been fantastic. We had 4 weeks of rehearsals. We went right into the performances. We rehearsed up until Thursday, then Friday to Sunday we performed, and every night has been different, and every night has gotten audience reactions in a way that's really heartbreaking and beautiful. So it's been a wonderful experience so far. So it's been more of a modern take of her character than has been previously.
Think about the Mirza Sahiban story. The thing that's most important about that one in particular is because I feel like the conversation in that story is between conditional and unconditional love. So the story takes place between 1995 and 2005, which is a really important time for Indian people in the Lower Mainland.
Because Andy and Puneet did a lot of work, so they actually sent like a resource list that has a bunch of movies and a bunch of songs about it. So I watched, I believe it was the 1960s version, which was amazing.
I just really tried to get as many resources as I could, finding different versions of the story, because there's not one.
Yes.
There's so many different versions of Mirza Sahiban.
ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਗਈ ਤੇਲ ਨੂੰ ਗਈ ਪੰਸਾਰੀ ਦੀ ਹੱਟ ਫੜ ਨਾ ਜਾਣੇ ਤੱਕੜੀ ਹਾੜ ਨਾ ਜਾਣੇ ਵਟ ਤੇਲ ਭੁਲਾਵੇ ਭੁਲਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਸ਼ਹਿਦ ਉਲਟ ਵੰਜ ਗਵਾਲੇ ਬਾਣੀਆਂ ਬਲਦ ਗਵਾਲੇ ਜੱਟ ਪੀਲੂ ਲਿਖਦਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਪੜੇ ਪੱਟੀਆਂ ਮਿਰਜ਼ਾ ਪੜੇ ਕੁਰਾਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਸੀਤੇ ਲੱਗੀਆਂ ਜਾਣੇ ਕੁੱਲ ਜਹਾਨ। ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਟੀਵੀ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਮਿਰਜ਼ਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਦੀ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਇਸ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲਿਖਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਪਲੇ ਦਾ ਰੂਪ ਦੇਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਮਿਰਜ਼ਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀਆਂ 4 ਪ੍ਰਸਿੱਧ ਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਕਹਾਣੀਆਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੀਰ ਰਾਂਝੇ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸੱਸੀ ਪੁੰਨੂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸੋਨੀ ਮਹੀਵਾਲ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਕਿੱਸੇ ਪ੍ਰਸੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਮਿਰਜ਼ਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਦੇ ਲਿਖੇ ਜਾ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪੀਲੂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿੱਸਾ ਉਹ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਹੋਇਆ। ਰੀਟੈਲਿੰਗ ਦ ਟ੍ਰੈਜਿਕ ਰੋਮਾਂਟਿਕ through a modern perspective, local playwrights Puneet Singh and Andy Ghar-A has envisioned the conversation that might have taken place between the lovers on the day of the tragedy. Through a theatre production featuring artists of the South Asian diaspora, they are giving the tale new life. Ghar-A is also one of the play's actors. South Asian Arts Society Monsoon Festival of Performing Arts presents Dooja Ghar-A Other House, A Mirza Sahiban story. August 5, 6 ਤੇ 7 ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਪਸੰਦ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ 12, 13 and 14 12, 13 ਤੇ 14 ਅਗਸਤ ਨੂੰ 7:30 ਵਜੇ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ 9 ਵਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਕੈਂਬਲ ਵੈਲੀ ਰੈਡ ਬਾਰਨ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਹੋਣੇ ਆ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ virtually we have Remy Kalu. She is the one of the play's actors who is an award-winning actor, writer, and director based in Vancouver, BC. Her work has been recognized internationally, receiving Best Screenplay at both the Oscar-qualifying Rhode Island International Film Festival and the Semptom International Film Festival. As well as we have Andy Ghar-A, who is an actor, a producer, now we can say him writer, known as the Call Long Halloween and Prisoner. Let's welcome Andy and Remy. Welcome. Hi. Remy and Andy.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us. So I know Andy, you are in Penticton and you are joining all the way from Penticton. Thank you for the time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your play success. So 3 days, 10 din the play jada ho chukya hai. What you guys personally feel about these 3 shows? I'll start with Remy.
It's been fantastic. We had 4 weeks of rehearsals. We went right into the performances. We rehearsed up until Thursday, then Friday to Sunday we performed, and every night has been different, and every night has gotten audience reactions in a way that's really heartbreaking and beautiful. So it's been a wonderful experience so far.
What about you, Andy?
Yeah, I feel like the audience response has been great. I feel like it's really connecting to the community, and I feel like the people that come, it's making them look at their life
Remy,
and the things that they believe in.
Remy, can you tell us your character in the play?
Yeah, so I'm playing Saiba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the classic heroine of the story. But we have her in a lens that's more of a modern lens, so it's late 90s and early 2000s. So she's quite rebellious and very independent, and the type of woman that wants to have her own life and her own job and her own career and everything. So it's been more of a modern take of her character than has been previously.
Andy, tell us your character, and you wrote that story as well, but tell us your character first.
So I'm playing Mirza, who's the hero of the story, I guess, but not really in our version. Yeah, so in our version, we kind of wanted to ground Mirza. He's not such a tough guy like he is in the original story. We wanted to make him like a real person.
Andy, you initiate that story as well. You shared your thought with Puneet, and you guys start writing the story. Why Mirza Sahiba in your thoughts?
I think for me, when I think about the Mirza Sahiba story, the thing that's most important about that one in particular is because I feel like the conversation in that story is between conditional and unconditional love. Because Mirza is willing to do anything for Sahiba, and Sahiba is trying to find a balance. And I like that fight that they have with each other. And then the fact of the family getting involved is still relatable to so many people today.
Andy, is there a traditional aspect in your play as well?
A traditional aspect?
Like Mirza Sahiba back when the original story. So you try to show that original story in your play as well?
We do, but it's more of a joke. Like it's not to be taken seriously. It's just to sort of establish the world that we're coming from when people usually think of Mirza Sahiba, and then bringing them into modern day.
So modern day da ज़्यादा दिखाया गया. So what particular time you try to show in this story?
So the story takes place between 1995 and 2005, which is a really important time for Indian people in the Lower Mainland.
Remy, when you heard about your role, what was your reaction? Who tried to connect you for this particular role?
I don't really remember. I think I saw it on the Instagram for South Asian Arts Festival. And then I had emailed Puneet a long time ago, but I think he missed my email. And then a few months later, he emailed me back saying, "Hey, Rami, I was hoping that you'd audition." And then I auditioned in December, I think it was, and got the part, and told my mom about it right away. And the first thing she said was, "You're pronouncing her name wrong." So
because everybody is pronouncing Sahiban.
Yeah, everyone says it differently, right? It's like Sahiban, Saiban, Saiban. So that was lesson number one.
Yes, and from your mom, it's big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So my mom actually helped me a lot with all the pronunciations and the history of it.
And did you try to search the history by yourself?
I didn't need to, actually, because Andy and Puneet did a lot of work. So they actually sent like a resource list that has a bunch of movies and a bunch of songs about it. So I watched, I believe it was the 1960s version, which was amazing.
There are many Punjabi movies around this story as well. Did you try to see that too?
Yeah, I also read the original because Andy also put that in the resources. So I read the original. There was one Punjabi version that I didn't watch because it didn't have subtitles. And my Punjabi is good, but it's not that good.
So Andy, did you do too much research around that? So how you start doing research around the Mirza Sahiba story?
I just really tried to get as many resources as I could, finding different versions of the story, because there's not one.
Yes.
There's so many different versions of Mirza Sahiba. And then we were able to find Bilu's version translated into English. But the translation was done like 100 years ago. So and then just watching movies and talking to Puneet. And then we also found the family that takes care of the grave of Mirza Sahiba in Pakistan.
No.
They have videos and interviews with that man. So there was a lot of resources that I turned to.
How much time you took to do the research and everything?
Well, from the initial idea to finishing writing was like a year and a half to 2 years.
And when you finish your story, you and Puneet finish your story, what was the first step you took?
The first step we took, finding actors.
How long
And
you
then
took for the actors to auditions and everything?
it took about a month, actually. Yeah, because trying to find as many actors as we could to audition and just see who's out there. And then approaching Gopi at South Asian Arts for the festival so that he can produce it. So.
One more thing, we have many short stories. We have like social media, internet, or we have big screens. Why you thought to do a play on this story?
Well, I mean, for me, because I'm an actor and I love theater, so I've always wanted to write my own play, perform my own play. So that's why I chose to do it. And I just think like theater is such an interactive experience for an audience versus a film where you're just kind of sitting back and watching. But in a theater, the actor's right there. Whatever's happening is right in front of you. And it's a different feeling.
Because nowadays, what do you think? People are going to see plays in theaters or no? Because back then when we talked to theater artists, they were looking for big screens because they were like, oh, we don't have a financial support, or sometimes they have boxes outside the show. So people put money in that and then they can plan next play so that they can do that play. Nowadays, is situation different or the same?
I would say for indie theaters, like smaller companies, it's kind of the same. But I mean, we were fortunate enough to work with South Asian Arts and do it at Monsoon Festival, which is very big. So we didn't have to worry about funding or anything like that. We were well supported. And I think the story that we created was naturally going to attract a large audience, especially amongst the Indian community. So we were very lucky with that.
That is true because it's like a big story. Everybody know about Mirza Sahiba, South Asian communities.
Yeah.
They all know about Mirza Sahiba. Remy, when you were playing that character, as Andy said, there was like a traditional aspect as well the modern aspect. How much homework you did by yourself to do the character of Sahiba in that show?
Quite a bit. Like I looked at all the resources that was provided. But then also because we decided to set it in late 90s to early 2000s, kind of went back into my memory as well and looked at some of the music I used to listen to, experiences of my own life in my own high school. Because I think the character that we've created, or Andy and Puneet have created, is very relatable to a lot of women aged 15 to 40, I'd say, especially when they grew up second generation in Canada. So a lot of research for Mirza Sahiban that I didn't know too much about, but also just kind of connecting back to the person that I used to be and the people that I knew growing up. So a fair bit.
You have to do many rehearsals or to go in characters. You have to give too much time for building a character or building a play. How much time you guys took to do the whole play? Like you said, in December you gave the audition and then it started. And when it started and when it finished?
So they didn't. There was one scene that I auditioned for in December, which they completely cut. So that scene that we worked on when we did the workshop, there's a different scene that's in the play now. So we workshopped that scene for like 6 hours one day. And then after that workshop, Andy and I working together, Puneet and Andy both got some ideas on how to make the script larger. And I think it was like end of June that we started working on the new script. And then for the past 4 weeks, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we've been doing rehearsals, and it's been a lot because it's not just the acting part, but there's a bunch of movement pieces as well. There's fight choreography, just a bunch of other things involved with this piece.
In the play, there are like many emotions. There's sad part, there's like funny part, and everything, right? And the story as well. So, what is your favorite scene in the whole play, Remy?
I don't want to give a spoiler, but I'd say that my favorite scene for myself is definitely the ending, but I don't want to say too much for the people that started watching it this weekend.
Yes.
Yes, and then there's also this one part where Andy's like performing as a different character in the very beginning, and he says, "There's light in my eyes." Every single time he delivers that one line, just cracks me up. Do you wanna say it, Andy?
What do you want to say,
Brava,
Andy,
मैंने
on
कुछ
that?
दस्ता तो है नहीं, अक्खा च लाइट पैंदी है.
So,
I would say
Andy,
my favorite part.
yeah, yeah. Tell us your favorite part, because
My
your
favorite
character
part
is
is
different,
actually,
right?
yeah, it's I love. So we have a third character in the story as well, who's the narrator, and he's kind of telling the story and tying everything together. But his improv with the audience and interacting with them is so good and so funny. I feel like that's what really captures the audience and brings them into the story.
People who watched the play, they were like, it's so good play. But who didn't watch, why should someone see the play? If I'll talk to you, Andy, what you want to say the viewers, why they will see that play in this weekend?
I think if you want to see a South Asian story with South Asian people that grew up here in the Lower Mainland and dealing with the issues that we have to deal with, that I had to deal with growing up, then you'll find it very relatable and enjoyable. And I think you'll take a very important message away from the story. And at the same time, you'll be entertained. It's at a beautiful farm in Langley. It's just a nice evening to come out and see a show.
Did you face any criticism after 3 shows?
I'm sure there are. I mean, nobody said anything to me, but I'm sure a lot of people have criticisms. But that's with anything, right?
That's true, but criticism makes you a strong person, and you can do better when somebody gives you the feedback, if it's negative or positive. Everything can be acceptable. So, Remy, why people will come and see you as Sahiba?
Wow. I loved Andy's description of it. But I think that we've all put so much work into our characters, and the story is also really important to us because we are moved and upset when we hear stories of honor killings and anything else that goes on in our society that's not okay. So it's something that we're all very passionate about, and it's not just our story that we're telling, or Mirza and Sahiban's story, but it's also the story of those that don't have the ability to tell their stories anymore. So please come for the community of the experience.
Because ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ aspect ਵੀ ਦੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਨੇ ਆ, ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਵੀ ਨਵਾਂ ਵੀ, so ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ recreate ਕੀਤਾ ਵੀ ਮਿਲਣਾ ਹੈ. So it's a good thing. People will come and watch. So any message, Andy, to the viewers?
Any message? I would just say please support the arts. Like, there's very few South Asians in theater and that are pursuing art. And I think the more support that we can give them as artists will increase and inspire younger South Asian kids to pursue their dreams in arts or whatever it is.
Thank you. And Remy, what do you want to say?
Yes, please come support the arts. Also, Gopi and everyone else involved in the team has put so much work, like Shuri, our stage manager. Everyone has really come together to make this beautiful, relevant play. And coming to support isn't just supporting the arts, but it's also supporting our own community. And I think it's a beautiful thing when we all come together in solidarity.
Thank you to both of you and your whole team. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mirza Sahiba ਦੀ story, ਦੂਜਾ ਘਰ, ਇਹ play ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੀ 12, 13 ਤੇ 14 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਟਿਕਟ ਇਹਦੀ ਰੱਖੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਟਿਕਟਸ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ www.monsoonartfest.ca. ਸੋ ਲੈਂਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ 5-7 ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ, ਸੋ 12, 13 ਤੇ 14 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਪਲੇ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ। ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਦੇਖਣਾ, ਆਰਟ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਦੇਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਮਿਰਜ਼ਾ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਦੀ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਰੀਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ, ਗੋ ਐਂਡ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆਰਟਿਸਟ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਆਰਟ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦਿਓ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੱਲਾਸ਼ੇਰੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦਿਓ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਹੋਰ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿਣ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਯੰਗ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਆ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਜੁੜੀ ਰਹੇ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਓਲਡਰ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਆ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਜੁੜੀ ਰਹੇ। ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਵਾਂਗੇ। ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ ਸਾਂਝਾ ਟੀਵੀ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਅਰਸ਼ਦੀਪ ਨੂੰ ਦਿਓ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ। ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।
देश की आज़ादी के अमृत महोत्सव की प्रदेशवासियों को मुख्यमंत्री मनोहर लाल खट्टर जी की तरफ से हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। प्रदेश का हर एक निवासी अपने घर पर तिरंगा ज़रूर फहराए और आज़ादी का जश्न धूमधाम से मनाए।